The first time I felt it, I was sitting in a cheap office chair, pretending to look busy, while my manager worked by like a hallway camera. And the weird part? I wasn't scared of getting fired. I was scared of not being allowed to live. Rent, insurance, car payment, the little monthly stuff that quietly owns you. I remember thinking, if this job goes away, my whole life collapses. That's not a financial plan. That's dependency with better branding. And no, I'm not about to do the world is out to get you thing. Relax. But I am going to say something that's uncomfortable. Society trains you, softly, politely, repeatedly, to stay financially dependent because dependent people are predictable. Predictable people are profitable. And the system doesn't need to hate you to do that. It just needs incentives. It starts early. Think back to school. You get rewarded for sitting still, following instructions, asking permission to go to the bathroom, and repeating what you were told on a test. I remember being a kid and realizing the smart students weren't the ones asking better questions. They were the ones guessing what the teacher wanted. That's not education. That's compliance practice. Then you graduate and people act surprised that you're terrified of risk. You were trained to be. And here's the sneaky part. None of it feels evil in the moment. It feels normal, even responsible. Get a stable job, don't rock the boat, build credit, finance the car. Monthly payments mean you're doing life right. Keep your head down. Nothing looks wrong until you notice one thing. You're building a life that requires permission. Permission from your employer. Permission from your boss's mood. Permission from the economy. Permission from a number on a credit report. And the moment you see it, it's hard to unsee. I didn't see it because I'm some genius. I saw it because I got trapped by it. I remember checking my bank account on a Sunday night, feeling that tightness in my throat, doing the mental math like a stressed-out accountant. Okay, if I stretch groceries and I don't go out and I skip that thing, I can survive until Friday.
That word should not be part of your monthly budget. So let's talk about how this training works, without blaming random people, without turning it into a cartoon villain story. Just mechanics. Because once you see the mechanics, you stop taking it personally, and you stop blaming yourself for not being disciplined enough. Here are the first chains they put on you. They're not metal chains, they're cleaner than that. They're schedule, debt, and identity. Schedule first. A predictable paycheck feels safe. I get it. I still respect stable income. I'm not telling you to quit your job and sell crystals on Instagram, but predictability has a trade. The trade is, if your whole life is built on a paycheck schedule, you start thinking in paycheck-sized decisions. You stop asking, how do I build something that can grow? You start asking, how do I make it to the next deposit? That shift is everything. I noticed this when I tried to start a side thing after work. I'd get home tired, scroll for just a second, then suddenly it's 11:48 p.m. and I've done nothing except numb out. And I'd tell myself I don't have time. That was a lie. I had time. I had no energy left because my best energy was sold earlier in the day. So the system doesn't have to stop you from building independence. It just has to drain you enough that you don't. Then comes debt. Debt is pitched like a tool. Sometimes it is. But the average person doesn't use debt like a tool. Debt uses them like a leash. I don't mean you're irresponsible. I mean the structure is psychological. When your monthly payments get high enough, your risk tolerance drops to zero. You don't negotiate your salary because you can't afford to lose the job. You don't leave a bad workplace because you can't handle 1 month of uncertainty. You don't try something new because your life has fixed costs that don't care about your dreams. I had a month where my car payment, insurance, and rent lined up like a firing squad. I remember staring at the dates on my calendar. It felt like the month was already spent before it even started.
That's the point. Not a conspiracy point, a math point. Fixed costs turn your future into obligations. And once you're locked into obligations, you become easy to manage. Now, identity. This one is nastier because it feels like being a good person. You're taught that being responsible means being employed, being stable, being secure. So if you question that model, people look at you like you're immature. I've had conversations where someone heard, "I'm building multiple income streams," and their face changed like I said I'm joining a cult. They weren't judging me. They were protecting the identity they were trained to respect. Because if you question the model, you threaten the comfort of everyone still inside it. And society protects its defaults. Here's the twist that most people miss. The system doesn't need to force dependency. It rewards it. It gives you social approval for being safe. It gives you status for having the right lifestyle signals. New phone, new car, nice place. And you pay for those signals with your freedom. I've done it. I'm not talking down to you. I once bought something I didn't need right after a coworker made me feel small in a meeting. I didn't even connect it until later. It was like my wallet was trying to defend my ego. That's how identity spending works. You're not buying the item. You're buying the feeling of "I'm fine." Now layer this with something society is very good at, keeping you focused on the wrong fight. You get told the problem is your budget. Stop buying coffee, cut subscriptions, eat rice and beans, be more disciplined. Okay, sure, that helps. But it's like telling someone in a burning house to use a nicer fire extinguisher while the stove is still on. The deeper problem isn't the latte, it's the training. The training that says, don't ask for more, be grateful. Don't negotiate, be polite. Don't take risks, be realistic. Don't build leverage, be normal. And the most powerful part? You start saying those lines to yourself. You become your own guard. I noticed it when I tried to raise my prices for a service I was doing on the side. My brain instantly went, "Who do you think you are?" Not, "Is the value there?" Not, "Will the market pay?" Just shame. That wasn't my voice, that was conditioning. So what do you do with this without becoming paranoid? You do what every hero does when they finally see the trap. You stop worshiping security and start worshiping optionality. Security is a nice word, but it can be a cage. Optionality is the ability to say no. No to a boss, no to a bad deal, no to a life you hate, no to the fear that keeps you small. And I learned this the hard way. Independence doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in your decisions. Because you can have savings and still be dependent if you're mentally obedient. And you can have very little money and still be building independence if you're training yourself to think like an owner. So here's the method I wish someone had handed me earlier. Not as a "do these 97 steps" checklist, more like a set of moves that rewires the training. First move, name the script. Pick one sentence you've been living by without realizing it. For me, it was, "I can't risk it." That sentence was running my whole life. Every time I wanted to ask for a raise, I didn't. Every time I wanted to start something, I delayed. Every time I wanted to leave a bad situation, I stayed. So I wrote it down, literally, on paper, and I replaced it with a better script. I can run small experiments. Not, I'll gamble my life, small experiments. Because dependence hates experiments. Dependence needs you to believe there are only two options, safe job or disaster. That's fake.
Second move, break the paycheck trance. This is where it gets practical. Take 1 hour a day, 4 days a week, and call it your anti-dependence hour. During that hour, you do only one of these things: increase income, build a skill that can be sold, or create a tiny asset that can exist without you. Not hustle grind nonsense. 1 hour. I started doing it at night. Sometimes I was tired. Sometimes it was ugly. Some nights I did 25 minutes and hated it. But after a few weeks, something changed. I stopped feeling like my job was my whole identity. I had a second thing, a second lane. And when you have a second lane, your fear drops. Third move, stop letting debt decide your personality. This is the non-obvious trade-off nobody says out loud. If you want freedom later, you may need to look less successful for a while. That hurts the ego, that's why people avoid it. But I've watched it happen again and again. The person with the nicest car is often the one who can't quit. So start shrinking your fixed costs, not because minimalism is cute, because fixed costs are handcuffs. I did a season where I said no to stuff I could technically afford because I was buying something else, room to breathe. And breathing room changes how you think. Fourth move, stop confusing educated with trained. This is going to annoy some people. Most financial education you get is about being a better employee with better habits. Save a little, invest a little, retire at 65, be a good citizen. Nothing wrong with that, but it dodges the real question. How do you stop being easy to control? Because the real leverage is income power, not coupon cutting. When I finally put most of my focus on increasing my earning ability, skills, negotiation, selling, building stuff people pay for, my whole financial life shifted. Not overnight, not magically, but the direction changed. And direction is everything. Now we hit the moment in the story where the hero returns with a new identity. This is that moment. If you've been trained into dependency, you don't fix it by memorizing tips. You fix it by becoming someone who questions defaults.
Someone who asks, who benefits if I stay scared? Someone who stops trading their whole future for the comfort of a predictable month. Someone who chooses optionality over approval. And yeah, this is the part where people around you might not clap. They might call you unrealistic. They might say, just be grateful. I've heard that line so many times it became background noise. But here's what I learned. People don't mean be grateful. They mean please don't change, because your change makes me rethink my life. So if you want a clean starting point, here it is. This week, notice every time you choose safety over growth. Not in a dramatic way, in a tiny way. You don't ask for more. You don't pitch the idea. You don't post the work. You don't take the call. You don't send the message. You don't try the experiment. Just notice. Because once you notice, the training loses power. If you felt a little exposed during this video, good. That means you're waking up. Drop a comment with the one programming line you caught in your own head, the sentence that keeps you dependent. And if you want to build the identity that doesn't need permission to live, subscribe, not as a favor to me, as a line in the sand for you. So, which training did you recognize yourself carrying without realizing it?